So what we're having here, do you have an extra copy of the case, Cheryl?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going through how to approach a case competition. So what we want you to do is you two can share a copy. I want you to read the first paragraph of the case, read all of the headings, then read the last paragraph of the case. Okay? Got about 10 minutes. And careful not that we've got to keep this thing here filmed, so let me just move this over. Perfect. Sure. Let me know when you're starting. I pause it.
When you're done reading, you can stop staring at the paper and you can stare at me. So I know when you're done. You have to pick a person who's sitting alone and has a case in front of them, be best friends with them, and read all of them. Any other room?
Cheryl, you want to give them a quick update on what they're supposed to be doing?
Oh, yeah, sit here. Very easy. And people who you're buddying up with, they expect you only. So. Yes, you. Just gonna give like 1 more minute for people who have not yet finished. Start speaking freely. Okay, I'm going to assume most of you at least some idea of the case. So let's solve the case to an extent. First thing, what's the business about? Fast food, fries, and okay. That's fast food, right? So if I wanted to use a decent KPI for this industry, what would it be? I mean, if you are running a fast how would you quantify your business, or how would you rate your business? Based on what would you rate it? High level. If you're running, okay, so you're inside a shop.
Number of chains?
No, just suppose you're inside one of these chains, okay, and the head office calls you and says, how did you perform this week?
Number of units?
Number of units, so what are the number of people that walk in and out of a fast food joint every day, right? Right, so you have that in the mind. Tell me about the organization. By reading the headlines, what did you find out about the organization?
That it's done well.
It's done well, it's expanding. What else?
But they had problems
They had
with
bigger
expansion.
experiences.
They had problems with expanding before. Good. What else? What did they start off with? Did they start off with both fries and hamburgers?
No, just
No.
Just fries. Good. So now you have a scene wherein you have fries initially, you moved on to hamburgers, you tried to go to other countries, some of them were good, some of them were bad. Now you're trying again to see what can you do to grow, right? This is all there is in the case. You can read the rest of the case, that is it. Right now what my team would generally do is we'll find out exactly what are you looking for when you're reading the case now. Now you're trying to look at growth into foreign markets. What would you like to find out? If you were just consulting for this company, what would be the things that you would look at when they say, I want to grow into markets, other markets? What are the things you're going to look out for?
Competition from customers.
Market. So inside the new market that you have, you look at the competition, customers, brilliant.
Margins.
Margins to an extent, yes, that can be done to quantify it.
Product.
What are the USP?
Product.
Good core competency. The products that you would expand with. That's it. Read the rest of the case. Try to find things that, sorry? Brilliant. Suppliers. There's one key thing that they mentioned inside the case, in one of the headings, something about franchising, right? So they expand basically on franchising model. If you don't know how franchising model works, you basically have some other firm which is there in a different country, they become your franchisee and they start operating business under your name, and you just help them out with whatever logistics or whatever. So they take care of the supplies, they take care of the customers, they take care of the feedback that comes from the ground level and everything. That's how a franchising model works. So you're also looking at different countries as well as the franchisors which you've worked with in those locations, right? Brilliant. Now the last page of this case is going to be a blank page right at the back, whether it's printed on one side of the sheet. If you have a pen, if you prefer working on laptop, do that. Read the rest of the case, and as and when you read through the case and you find things which are either about the new markets you're entering, maybe about competition, customers, suppliers there, the franchising, just make notes of it. How I do it is, I go by countries. So if let's say India, Australia, say Brazil are the three options that I'm trying to explore. Each of these I would make a note of what kind of customers are there, what's the market like, what's the competition like, as and when I read the case, right? So go on, read the rest of the case.
Skim it. We don't have
Skim
time
it,
for you
yeah.
to read.
You don't have to like read it, you don't have to buy hard those numbers. All you're trying is, you know exactly where this case is going, and you know what kind of data you're looking for, so just skim through the whole thing. You can go and you've read every word in most of the paragraphs. Every word. That's a trick question, you don't have to. Right?
But we're
Because
impressed.
God knows you're going to be reading through it once more. But not yet. Based on your now skimming of the whole paragraphs, I want you to start off with the first things first. First is, as I explained in the last lecture, situation, complication, question. How many of you don't know about that? Okay. So you start off a case, you analyze what the current situation is, that is called the situation. Not the current situation, what the situation the company was in before this whole case was written. And then the complication that it ran into, and the question that now faces the company, right? So help me understand this. What is the situation New York Fries or Subway was in before? Go on, take a start. There's no grades here, there's no...
They were doing good, but at the same time they tried to expand, but they had problems in Korea and Australia.
Right. So they're doing good.
In Middle East.
At least
Tried
they did good.
expanding. Some of them were failures. But mostly they're doing good, right?
Yeah.
So what's the complication that has now come up? Or what is the thing that has made them want to grow again?
Lack of opportunities in Canada.
Lack of-
Saturated Canadian market.
Is saturation for both fries and burgers, or is it for one of them?
Securing supplies in international markets.
So that is a problem which they're gonna face when they grow, right?
Yeah.
Currently,
By the
we haven't reached there yet.
They're debating what should they promote more, fries or burgers.
Perfect.
What
That's
is
another
more
aspect of
like-
this, right? So what do you focus on more, right? But then again, it's not a complication as such. It's again a situation, and it's something that they should be focusing on, but that's not the primary cause here.
Well, they kind of established that one is not going to cannibalize the other one, so
Right. But do you think it will cannibalize fries and burgers?
I don't think so.
Slow growth rate in some of their franchisees.
Okay. What's the question now that they face now?
Whether to expand or not.
Indian China.
Whether to expand into India and China, and what is the restriction that they put up in their minds when they want to expand into a new country? What do they want? Sorry. Okay, so there are some of these elements which are operational and tactical, there are some which are strategic, right? So when they expand into new countries, what is the main cause of concern for them?
They're not able to manage the management. They're not able to handle them properly.
Right, that's one point.
Opportunity cost they are losing.
Right, again, all these are small points. Think of it from the higher level. Okay, okay.
They didn't have a strong partner.
So now what happens if all this does not happen? What if they don't get a strong partner? What if they don't find a good management team? What if they don't find suppliers? What
Does not
happens?
know the market well.
What if they don't know the market well and they go into the market?
They'll run into loss,
It's gonna fail again.
What happens when you have price?
brand damage.
Brand image.
Brand equity.
So the only reason why this case is different from any other expansion into two countries is because they want to make sure that their brand stays the same, right? No one will jeopardize that. That's your situation complication question. That's slide one, really. And the next slide will generally be your recommendation. So right now we don't even consider that. So it's two slides. So the person who's making the slides have already started making the slides. Now the third slide. Now,
One question means damaging the brand in one country. How does it affect in other countries? Basically, both countries are basically independent, but
explain that to me. I mean, okay, let me ask you the question. So if I have a company operating in, let's say, France and Canada, and I royally mess up in France, how long does it take for that news to fly to Canada?
okay, in that sense.
In addition to that, if we have two brands that we're expanding in, New York Fries expanding into a country, all of a sudden it fails. South Street Burger starts doing well, and you want to expand that into the area. How easy is it going to be to find investors? Your last venture failed.
Yeah.
Why should we back you in this one?
Right.
Lots of reasons.
Okay. Generally, that becomes your core issue in our case, right? What happens is you generally debate about it, and the debate goes like this, goes on. For us, the most amount of time that we spend in a case com, if it's a 4-hour case com, we read the case in an hour. That is, we read it once and then skim through it. Then we do at least an hour to make sure we get the core issue right. That is the final question. Because if you get that wrong, you're tackling the wrong issue completely. And mostly half the slides are eliminated because of the core issue that you identify. Right? So some of the techniques like 5 whys and things you can end up using. For example, suppliers. What happens? Why should I care about the suppliers? Or why should I care if the management is not better? What happens if this happens? Try to look at it from the strategy level or the corporate level. What are the implications that it would have for them? Right? So again, slide 1, slide 2. The third one is again, how would you go ahead now and do your analysis? Right? For that, you need to understand what the case is. What are the countries? India and China, right? What other details do you have based on your skimming of it?
Demographics.
Okay. Okay, not that way. Okay, what are the other countries that they currently are in other than Canada?
In Bangkok,
Middle
Hong
East.
Kong, Bahrain.
Hong Kong, Australia,
And what are the different franchisees or franchisors in all these franchisees, I guess? Yeah, in all these 3 locations. I remember if right, you had Fifi brothers here,
Yeah.
right? And they wanted to go here,
Yeah.
right? And they also wanted to do SSB.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
SSBC.
Right. Hong Kong was what exactly?
Two businesses, two brands.
2 brands. Okay. What else can you tell me about their expansion in Hong Kong?
It was slow.
Was it a failure?
No, financial results were good, but the growth was slow.
It was
Right. Perfect. What about Australia?
The failed company.
negative experience.
Then, yeah.
And who was the franchise or whatever? It's okay because we're not going to work with them. Right? Right? So now we look at how we do our analysis to back up different things that we want to do. So if you're looking at expansion, do you all remember the pyramid thingy from last lecture? Okay. So when you do your analysis, always try to break it up into 3. So you have your recommendation up top. You have 3 major milestones on the cornerstones, I guess, that it's built on. There's 3 areas in which you do your analysis, right? All these 3 areas follow this one particular rule called the Macy rule, which is called mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. Now it's tough to get collectively exhaustive in 3, but make sure it's exclusive because that's a big pain in the neck. What do I mean by mutually exclusive? If I look at profits, revenues and costs, there's nothing inside revenue that will come in cost, there's nothing inside cost that will come in revenue. If you form these are called buckets, if you form your buckets in an incorrect way, when you try to do further analysis, you'll find that some of the analyses are overlapping. And that's an indication that your buckets are not mutually exclusive. Right? Why is it important? Now, this is something called as the horizontal logic in your slides. So you have your recommendation up here, and you're saying that because of this, your recommendation, right? So if you have overlapping facts or overlapping things, that means if you've got an error here, it affects this. If you have an error here, that affects this, right? So that's how you try to make it as exclusive as possible. So in this case, if I'm trying to expand into a new country, what are the things I look for? What are the different analysis that I do? Suppliers. Okay. I look at suppliers. In this case, let me also put a / franchise or whatever. Okay.
Market demand.
Market. I'm going to call that customers. What else? Competition. Now, ideally, you should stick to 3 because the second becomes more than 3, people don't remember. So if you have a 4th one, pick and choose. Either add it with one of these or remove one of these if you don't think one of these is as important as the next. So let's stick to this. When you look at suppliers, what are the different things that you look out for? Capital, their competency based on financial or whatever. What else do you look out for?
Cost, quality.
Yeah. How many competence? Sorry?
Cost of the.
Cost. Okay, so the implement, okay, that can be another thing that we can look out for. I'd also look at their previous performance, right? So I'm looking at quantitative performance here and qualitative performance here. So that can be one way of looking at it. Again, in customers, what do you look out for?
Culture.
Culture? What else? So you have got a qualitative factors here and you can add on to this. What quantitative factor will you look out for?
Maybe the age group.
How much they are
Income
willing to pay.
exposure.
GDP, jazz like that. So I'm just going to call that math. Because for lack of a better word to stuck in my head. Again, competition, what are you looking out for?
Other fast food chains, market share, vice versa.
What? Okay. Market share, trends. What else?
They have a USP which is exclusive to that. It's the competition.
Okay, so what will you compete on? Okay, I put that here too.
Maybe the product differentiation.
Right, same thing. If competition can be on price or product differentiation, all that kind of stuff, right? So now you know the different areas or the different buckets in which you want to do an analysis for each country, right? So how many people do you normally work with in a case comp?
4.
4 less. Okay, 4. How many countries do you plan to expand into?
2.
Okay, so pick, if you are in a group of 2, stay in a group of 2. If you are in a group of 1, find another person who is single and take one country each and do your analysis. Now your analysis, for example, if it's on India, it has to be the suppliers, and under suppliers you can look at these 2 factors. Under customers you can look at these 2 factors, and under competition you can look at these 2 factors. Right? And collect your data now. Now you can actually look at the exhibits. See if they help out in your analysis.
How long?
So you have 15 minutes. Yeah. Oh, right. What is the final outcome after the whole thing? 3 hours. It's a deck, right? So I really need to storyboard a deck too. So now you have an idea. Hopefully, all of you have an idea in your head as to whether you want to expand into either of these countries. And if so, you have also justifications in your head as to why, right? Good. So we'll do the storyboarding of the deck, which is basically what the different top lines of each of your deck would be. Why is that important?
Keep it with the
Good. So if you have like 10 slides, should have said 6. If you have 6 slides, you'll have one sort of line right on top, right? The heading for your slide. Ideally, if you just read the headings, you should understand what's happening inside your deck. Right? That's called a storyline. So let's figure out a storyline for this particular deck. So the first one is obviously the situation complication question. Not obviously, at least for us. And the second one is your recommendation. Right? So have whatever headings that you want, but make sure one reflects what is there in your SCQ. You can either put your question up top, or you can actually frame it into a core issue statement and put it up top. How would you go about expanding into India and China without affecting the or sustaining the brand value or whatever it is? The recommendation, again, ideally a recommendation should be a perfect little one line on top, which would encompass all your things in your recommendation. And then ideally in this recommendation you will have like India, China, whether to expand, yes or no. If so, what should they additionally do? That's 2 slides. What is ideally going to be the first slide? Rationale. How do you want to structure the rationale?
Talking about structure, yes.
Okay, right there. So, this case is a bit of a weird one. Ideally, if there was just one country you were expanding into, you can look at the suppliers, this will form your 1 slide. You can look at your customers, that will form your 2nd slide. And you can look at your competition, that will form your 3rd slide. All your analysis comes below, and whatever your inference is based on that slide comes on top. So if it says, if the case was just expanding into China, it would be like, and I say that the suppliers are present everywhere. It will be something like the suppliers, there is ample amount of suppliers present in the Chinese market that would support our expansion. And then below I'll have a list of maybe a graph or a table of whatever analysis I do. Second deck would be, next slide would be the customers, and the cultural fit of the customers is in accordance with the New York Fries brand, but not the South Street Burger brand. I'm just making up stuff, assuming that's what I come across. Third would be competition. There's a high amount of competition. Now I need to make sure whether based on those 3 stories, I'd go ahead and expand. So the last slide again would be a recommendation all over, right? So that forms the story. So you start off with the situation, and the first heading was we are trying to expand without impacting our brand. Second became this is how we should, this is our recommendation, followed by a justification. The first one said that the suppliers